As a fashion designer, I make my own patterns. And patterns, no matter what level you're on, no matter how many years you've been doing them, no matter who you are, the first pattern will almost never be correct. Never. And you gotta make it in the sample with a really crappy fabric, try it on, and fix whatever you gotta fix. That's just the standard. That's just what it is. So that's how I think of my life. Sometimes what I try, it's just not gonna work out. That's fine. I gotta tweak it a little bit, fix it here and there, and goodbye, it's done. I welcome it.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back. This is Andrea Parc.
And Alexis Dumitru.
And this is Alive Again, is a podcast where we share real life stories of universal challenges and the profound ways these experiences shape our lives. Today is just me and Alexa because we, again, changed the name of the podcast, as you can see, to Alive Again. And it's basically the same as my book, Alive Again. And I feel that it resonates better with who we are today going forward. And that's the reason for the change. And the reason why we don't have a guest today, and we thought we would do one episode, just the two of us, is to share the experiences that we had for the past few months. I've been in Romania for 1 month and Alexa for 3 almost, and we had very transformational experiences and lessons that we've learned and discomfort that we wanted to share it with you. And this is maybe we can name this episode, Can You Handle Your Truth?
That's a good one, actually. Because that time in Romania, really, especially when I was alone, I was so confronted. I couldn't escape myself. And I was so confronted with myself and who I am, and I had no choice to run. I didn't have anybody to push my accountability on. I didn't have anybody to blame. It was just me. It was just me. And that's kind of the perfect title.
Yes. It's interesting how when we're forced, we don't face our truth in comfort. Only when we are forced to do it is when the pain comes and we kind of have to.
No choice.
No choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk about your experience, because your 3 months were really transformational.
So we went to Romania together, and
in September.
And my goal in Romania was to begin to start producing some of my pieces for my brand in Romania, just because I feel a little bit more like I resonate with Romania more. The workmanship is a little bit better. It's easier to find good workers, and it's slightly cheaper. And as a growing brand, that's something that I'm really looking for. And I had gone there with a set in stone plan, which that stone turned out to be like sheetrock, and it just fell apart in my hands.
Not even, probably just some
pieces of
gum.
Yeah, pieces of gum. And I changed my plan a million times. I felt at some point that I was pushing doors open and they were just slamming in my face. So many things, I thought I was on a good path, and I really wasn't. And again, the door just ended up slamming in my face. I felt like, I felt like I was a dog trying to run on hardwood floor, just trying so hard, and just slipping. I wasn't going anywhere. And I had been to someone to help me produce. The goal initially, after the first goal, was to find someone to help me make a new collection. And the new collection turned out to be biting off way more than I can chew, because it was really a lot. I had designed the whole collection, but it just wasn't really feasible. Then I ended up resorting to presenting my. So the major issue was that I had a show back here in New York on December 5th. And so I had to come back with something. Failure was not an option for me. I had to come back with something. I could not come back with my tail between my legs. It wasn't an option. And so I ended up on the goal of presenting my old collection, my first collection, and having like a sample sale sort of deal and selling a few pieces. So I would go around to a bunch of fabric stores in Bucharest and I would just pick fabrics that I liked and I would take whatever they had left. So that would mean that I have some shirts like this one. This is the only one that I have out of this fabric, but then I have two yellow ones that are small and medium. But then I have another black shirt that are also small and medium, or I have another fabric that I only have one of. So it was kind of both, like in the truest sense. And I ended up having a lot of problems with production and a lot of problems with the patterns because obviously there was not much. I'm a very hands-on person and my brand is me and only me. And in Romania, I didn't really have that space or that luxury to do really anything myself. And I think that was my first lesson. Control. Because I am major control freak when it comes to my baby, to my brand. And hence why I do absolutely everything. And I think that really made me think about just how much of a control freak I am. Because you never think you're a control freak until you're like really forced to confront it. And it was good in a sense that I could just, trust some people with my baby. But then in another sense, I learned that there needs to be somehow a happy medium. Like, yes, it's not really great to be a control freak, but at the same time, it's your name. And I went to a factory and I received back less than satisfactory products. And one of the many things that I learned was that I definitely should have been there. Like, I should have been there and breathing over their shoulders 24/7. Yes, they're a factory, and yes, that's what they do all the time. And the woman who runs the factory when I first went. So, out of this whole 3 months, I ended up only having 10 days to do the 20 pieces that I was supposed to come back with. So, I didn't have much time for anything. And I had gone to drop off the fabrics and the patterns to this lady, and I expressed some concern with her that I want her to let me know. I was so concerned about everything. I was concerned about quality, about time, about everything under the sun. And she goes, we sell to Paris, and Paris is much higher than New York. So if Paris likes our stuff, then New York will like our stuff. Oh, okay, sure. And here we are. I have 20 pieces of clothing that is not up to my standard and that I'm quite not necessarily embarrassed to present as mine, but definitely not up to my standard. And there was so many things that I learned about myself. I learned about my business. I learned about, ultimately I was living with my grandmother, but I was doing, everything in the house pretty much. That was really helpful to me as a person, obviously. It's a lot of stuff that
So can you name 3 major things that you've learned?
I've learned that there needs to be a happy medium between control freak and trusting someone with my business. And I need to be a little bit more, I need to have the happy medium. I learned that no matter how much you can prepare for something, you'll never be totally prepared. And especially in my line of work, I never feel prepared no matter what I bring. It's not something I'm good at, preparation. And the third would probably be to see the signs, because I feel like there were so many flashing red lights. There were so many guys with the sticks from the runway telling me don't go here. There were so many signs. And I think I give the benefit of the doubt too much. And I think, no, that can't be me. That can't be me. Like, it can't be me that receives back what I received. Or it can't be me that, whatever. It can't be me. And, yeah, don't be so trusting, in other words.
Would that refer to responsibility?
Not necessarily, because I do feel that I'm responsible for that time. I'm responsible. Literally,
No, but when you said it can be me.
No, in a sense that you never think that you're gonna be the one who's screwed over, in a sense.
In that sense.
In that sense.
All right.
I mean, there were so many signs.
So what do you think was the major thing that made you overlook the signs?
Being too trusting. Because I think it's also a cultural difference that I don't really understand how. It's not really a cultural difference, because it happens all over the world. It's just I'm too trusting, and I trust people very easily, and not necessarily easily, but I trust people too much. I should have been there all the time, and I should have been more. I also feel like I may have missed some hints. Like, I feel like there were times when I should have taken the hint that something wasn't going right. Again, hindsight is 20, and I want to see the red flags. I wish I would have seen those red flags, but
I mean, we all have signs.
Maybe also just didn't want to accept.
Yeah.
That, like, I would end up in that situation.
Yeah. I think it's how much do you compromise on your truth?
Yeah, that's also part of it. I think I wanted it to be easy. And there was one
easy and smooth and to basically expectations met.
Yeah, and there was one path that I really, was technically the easiest path, and I didn't want to believe that was not going to be the actual easiest path, I didn't want to believe it, and I didn't want to probably accept it either.
Yeah. So it's back to the title of this episode, if we can handle our truth.
I don't know if it was really, yeah, I guess so.
But ultimately, this is how we learn. This is human nature. That we signs, but in the same time, very few of us actually listen fully to the sign and take the path that is best for us, not easy for us, because our minds want easy, but what's best for us is not always the easy path. And probably that's the reason why we ignore the signs, because we don't want to accept what the expectations that we created for the particular situation. We don't want to accept that that's not going to be how we envision it. And we don't let our higher power take over, because we want control. We know what's best for us.
Yeah. And I absolutely don't regret the past 3 months. And I'm actually very happy that I experienced those things, because now I know what I want and what I don't want for my business. And I know what I don't want and what I do want for myself. And although it was definitely miserable at times, I wanted to go home so bad at some points, I still really, really enjoyed the experience. And I also think I managed myself quite well in the end, and I came out of it better than at some points. I was definitely thinking, like, I'm just gonna go home and just deal with it at home. I don't wanna.
Yeah, because we all have experiences that shape our journeys and our lives, and it's best when we take the lesson, we learn the lesson. And in your case, it's great that you didn't come back with, that's it, I don't want to hear about Romania again and people and culture, and no, I don't want to step foot in that country. No, you came back with, okay, this was the experience, I wasn't fully prepared for it, but I am willing to, there is much potential there, and I'm willing to try again.
Yeah, it wasn't the country's fault or any certain person's fault. It wasn't even my fault. I mean, it was just a learning process.
Right, but in the same time, as I told you before we left, it's a cultural difference. In order to be able to do business
Right.
there,
That's another thing that I majorly learned. I learned
we are wired differently here in the States with what's in Eastern Europe. Because I'm talking about Eastern European, Romanian. We have this Balkan energy in us where we need to
be powerful and to
push and
push until
regardless what happens. And some of them are very sneaky, and it's okay if, I mean, this is the way of doing business there. And for somebody that comes with the mentality from the US where everything is very straightforward.
You can go to a store and bargain with the price or...
Right, and people are very nice and they're not there to get you.
Yeah.
It's hard to deal with people.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you've seen that for yourself, because I left Romania when I was 22. Her dad also is Romanian. So we left Romania for the US with the purpose of having a life in this country. As many as the immigrants that left Romania, right? And for me, home is here in the US, in New York. It was hard for me to accept that my daughter wants to go back to Romania and wants to eventually live and have a business and live in Romania. It was hard for me to accept, right? But I said, if I tell her, she's not gonna understand from my point of view. I'm glad now that you've been through all of that and you had those experiences and you've learned yourself, you've been exposed to what I could not have expressed in words.
Yeah. Yeah. And I definitely think that that's a big thing that I learned, because sometimes I feel that I'm too nice. And I say, yeah, that's great. And I'm a little people pleaser. And that's not really good. I mean, I took the best parts of the Romanian mentality and I brought it here. And by the end of my stay, I was arguing with everybody and I was really like standing up for myself and not letting myself be stepped on. And from someone of my stature, that's very surprising for a lot of people. And I feel like I really brought that mentality back to America, all in the right places and all in the right, areas of my life.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that you've learned boundaries.
Boundaries. Yes, that's what it comes down to.
Which, yes, it's okay to be nice to people, but not against yourself. Values and needs, and that's a very good lesson to have learned at 21.
Yeah. So, what did you learn in Romania?
What have I learned in Romania?
Where do I begin?
Where do I begin? So it's the first time I've been back to Romania almost every year, sometimes twice a year.
Since you left?
Since I left 27 years ago. This time was the first time when all of the emotional buttons were pushed every single day. And I believe that this happened because of the work that I'm doing with myself and because of the intentions that I set for myself to clear up and to understand all the blockages and all the emotional knots that I have in my life. That, of course, the universe answered. And everything that all the emotional traumas that I had while I was there, I felt it. And I felt exactly how I felt before I left Romania. And as Alexa said, every single day I had this feeling of, that's it, I'm calling the airline company
Changing my
and
flight. I'm going home.
changing my flight. Today I'm packing my bags and I'm going back home.
I remember when you left, you were crying, and I think you were crying tears of joy. I think you were so excited.
I was, but I realized that coming back home to comfort, it won't help me. And staying there in discomfort every day helped me a lot. Helped me not compromise on my truth and be authentic with myself. The responsibility to my own salvation. Because yes, I'm doing this work. Yes, I teach people how to be authentic and how to recognize their truth, but I can't move forward in helping people. I'm at the same time a teacher and a student. So I need to move on with my own growth. And this month in Romania helped me tremendously to be in discomfort and to ask questions every single day, every emotion that would come up. Where is this emotion coming from? What buttons have been pushed and why? And how can I let my energy clear up and flow so I can heal more with every single day and every single experience that passed.
And I feel like we had, because I also had a lot of discomfort in Romania, but we had very, very different feelings of discomfort. And on top of my grandma lives in the center of Bucharest. Like, the government building is right next to her. Like, we are in the center of the capital of Romania. And there were times when we didn't have hot water. I mean, like, there are certain things that coming from New York in the US, I mean, it's wild. We still have a gas stove that you have to turn on with a match. Like, there are a lot of things that, especially me growing up in the US, it's really out of this world. You also had vintage, yes. You also had the added discomfort of the childhood trauma in that house and in that country.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes. And it was my trauma and my pain and suffering that was triggered for myself, and then working through my own stuff. And then I was afraid for you. I was, how should I say this? I didn't want you to have the same suffering as I did, and I wanted to protect you. But how can I protect you? Because I realized that you don't have the same suffering as I do, because sometimes I was exploding in my own soul with all the things that were happening and didn't mean anything to her. And then it's when I realized, aha, so these are only mine. It's just my mind that is trying to protect her from something that it's not even hurting her. So before I left, I asked her, do you want me to stay longer? Is there anything that I can help you with if I stay? And she said, no, I'm fine. And I left knowing.
And you kept asking me, are you sure? But are you sure? But are you sure? I can stay if you want. If you really need me, I can stay.
Yeah. It was the fight with myself.
Yeah.
And then I realized, no, she's okay. She's fine. If I stay, I'm not gonna be able to help her in any way. Probably just hinder her growth, because I'm gonna be on top of her with things that probably don't even mean anything to her as they do to me. And bottom line, alone, she will learn best.
I think that speaks to the generational trauma curse, right? Because unknowingly, even through our like genes completely outside of our control, we transmit things generationally, right? And the fact that you are able to say, this is a generational thing, and it stops with me. Because there's no why am I gonna continue it on?
Continue.
Yeah.
I break the chain.
Right.
And by giving it to you, this behavior that I'm trying to create, a new behavior, for you at 21, you have your full life ahead of you to create your own vision.
Right.
Not having it
be influenced.
not just inherited without being conscious of it.
Yeah, it's a little bit of critical thinking, right? To create my own reality. That's what it comes down to.
Being conscious of it, not just inheriting it from past generations. And it's interesting that I was talking to a friend earlier about how only 8% of the population is conscious. 92% are asleep. And yes, we have free will, but we also have 80%, 75% of subconscious and unconscious patterns that come along from generations and generations. So what we can do with the free will, if we are awake, is to stop and analyze. Where are these propensities coming from?
Why do I do this?
Why do I do this? And with this,
But first you gotta realize that what you're doing is not necessarily the most efficient thing. And that's the hardest part of any change that you make and of any conscious thought is recognizing not that you have a problem, but that you would like to better streamline something in your life.
Yeah, but as we know, 95% of people don't change until the pain is so heavy that they can't take it anymore. That's when they become aware that change might be something good.
Yeah, sometimes, unfortunately, we have to touch the hot stove to know that it's hot. And I learned that in Romania. No matter how conscious I thought I was, no matter how aware of myself I thought I was, nope.
No, because we are human and because we're preconditioned. But again, with the awareness, you were able to use your free will and realize that ultimately it's your choice.
Yeah.
Life, everything that we do in life, it's a choice. And when we choose to better ourselves, that's when we learn. And it's painful. Yes, it's painful. Yes, it's painful. But on the other side of the road, when we cross, we see the glimpse of light.
Yeah. And you realize, you look back and you're like, how did I ever act that way? How did I ever do that?
How is that saying that only when you experience darkness, you can appreciate the light?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that darkness is the pain that we go through every day just because we're afraid or are simply unwilling to be outside of our comfort zone for a change. So we get comfortable in that pain only because we're afraid of the discomfort
of change,
of facing the truth of our life. Because if we don't face the truth, if we don't face where we are, we can't lie to the GPS, right? We cannot lie to the GPS. If we need to get from point A to point B, we need to input in the GPS where point A is. So if we don't acknowledge where we are, we can't get anywhere. And that's painful and it's hard, but only that way we can move forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really not easy, but they always say things get worse before they get better. And boy, do they get worse. Once you acknowledge the problem, they get much worse.
Yeah. Because you start, no, they don't get worse.
No, but you recognize something about yourself,
Yeah.
and then things just start crumbling around because you realize that
You
been.
see them.
Yeah, you see them because they've always been there. You
They've
just
always,
recognize them.
right.
Yeah.
So things don't get worse. They were there all along. You just didn't see them.
Yeah.
They were there somehow behind your mind. You weren't conscious of them. And when you take the initiative and the willingness and the intention to see things and to acknowledge things and to accept things, then is when you start seeing everything.
Yeah, and I feel like now that we're talking about it, because this podcast actually really helps me to personally analyze. And now that I'm thinking about it, the last 10 days when I was in Romania and I was struggling to get everything fixed, I felt like things were just crumbling around me, and I had I wanted to get back on a flight yesterday. And I think that was the issue, that I had finally accepted my fate, and I had accepted where I had gotten and what had ended up happening. I mean, because I didn't see the signs. And everything just started crumbling. Even though it was always there, I just felt like everything was just crumbling on top of me, and I couldn't. It was so...
That is called accepting the truth.
Yeah. And I came back.
And of course it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Who in this world wants to acknowledge that they messed up? Yes, I messed up. I didn't listen to that sign. I didn't do that. I didn't talk to that person. I didn't speak my mind. I didn't. Or I did that instead of the other thing. It's hard, but only then that we can, and it's okay. We're not,
there's no
acceptance. Right, exactly. Acceptance doesn't mean blame or guilt. It's acceptance with love. Yes, this is it.
What do they say? It's when you get on the wrong train, it's better to get off now than to try to return back to point A from where you've gotten with the wrong train. I'm sure the saying is much more eloquent than how I just said it, but yeah, I mean, that's the truth. Might as well accept the
mess
now and turn around and get back on the correct train, or get back to point A so you can get back on the right train, than it is to end up in Coney Island and realize I'm in the wrong place.
Yeah. And also, not only that, but accepting what happened without, as in the devil's advocate, which I loved at the end. One saying is that guilt is a bag of bricks, and the only thing that you can do is to simply put them down.
Yeah. No, that's true. Easier said than done, but...
Of course, because we all have the guilt.
You've got a brick in this pocket, another one in this pocket, another one in your backpack, you know?
Yeah. So it's... If we accept, so acceptance is hard to understand for people because they believe that acceptance is blame and guilt. But no, it's not. Acceptance is, it is, and that's it. What can I learn and how can I move forward from here? Yeah. She called me from Romania crying. I said, okay, so what do? You either cut your losses and take your bags and come back, or make another plan.
Yeah.
And continue. Because this is not failure. This is just a stepping stone.
Yeah.
Yes, a detour.
Yeah.
To where you need to go. Probably that road, the signs that you're talking about, were not the right path to begin with.
Yeah.
But yeah, letting things flow and accepting.
Yeah. So I came back. I had the show a week after I came back. And then this week now, I've just been reflecting and just taking a second to just calm myself down and to, process and to, reflect. Because I really, it was a lot, and I needed the reflection and the analyzation.
And it's all a choice, again.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you see what happened? because there are so many faces of this thing, the situation that we call reality.
Yeah.
So I think that you're on the right track.
Of course. Thank you. I know.
The lessons were well received.
And I'm sure there will be more lessons that,
And I'm
upon
sure,
reflection,
exactly. And I'm sure that you're gonna mess up,
I welcome it.
which it's human, again.
Absolutely.
I do that. We all do that. But if we learn from it and we move on, it's all that matters. This is evolution and progress, and we welcome it. And
my last thought is, as a fashion designer, I make my own patterns. And patterns, no matter what level you're on, no matter how many years you've been doing them, no matter who you are, the first pattern will almost never be correct. Never. And you gotta make it in a sample with a really crappy fabric, try it on, and fix whatever you gotta fix. That's just the standard. That's just what it is. So that's how I think of my life. Sometimes what I try, it's just not gonna work out. That's fine. I gotta tweak it a little bit, fix it here and there, and goodbye, it's done. I welcome it. And it's almost expected.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't want to put an expectation to it, but yeah. I mean, it's welcomed. And failure is a learning experience, and it's really a blessing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. Please subscribe. And starting next week, we will be back to guests. And I cannot wait to share with you who our next guests will be.
Thank you so much. See you next
Thank you.
week.
See you.